A large part of the difficulty in Hollow Knight Silksong comes from the challenging boss fight mechanics and platforming sections. However, knowledge of the game also plays a large role. Knowing what upgrades to get as well as when and where to get them can drastically increase your overall strength and make the game feel substantially easier as a result. This guide will cover how to go about getting stronger in Acts 1 and 2 in an efficient manner, as well as common mistakes to avoid making. As usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. After starting a new game, we want to focus on getting our initial set of upgrades and abilities as quickly as possible. Collect the 2 Mossberries while getting through the tutorial area using a pogo jump off the nearby Mossberry to reach the second berry. These will come into play later for one of our first blue tools that we can get and what will eventually be able to upgrade to one of the better tools in the game. Getting through the tutorial section, we'll then want to quickly advance through the Marrow region and up to where Chakra is. On the way, we can stop at the Flea caravan location in the Marrow and start that quest line. Fleas can be found throughout Farloom, and while we don't need to go out of our way to save them, we should save any that we happen to come across. In any case, Chakra will sell us the maps, quill, and compass that will allow us to navigate the world on our first playthrough. If you've already completed a playthrough and don't need these items to find your way around, then you can skip them. If you do need them, then you can loop around the area up and to the west, then down and east to unlock the gate for the nearby bench. This serves as a good rest spot to farm some initial rosaries from the enemies in the surrounding area. After we've purchased any necessities, we'll want to quickly go up and west, then east to unlock the Silkspear ability. This will allow us to advance to the next area. On our way there, we can grab a Mossberry from a hidden chamber and make a quick detour to speak with the Moss Druid. Our 3 berries we gathered will allow us to complete the berry picking quest and get the Druid's Eye tool. This blue tool, when equipped, generates half a note of silk every time we are damaged. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it can come in very handy and we can upgrade it to be even better in Act 2 of the game. With that done, we can follow the pointed arrow sign above Chakra's first location to find the Bell Beast bound in webs. After freeing it with the Silkspear, we'll then need to defeat it. Doing so will unlock the fast travel mechanic, which takes us between unlocked Bellway stations. As a rule, we should prioritize unlocking any Bellway station we happen to come across. Moving east into the Marrow from here, we can grab the Sharp Pendant, a yellow tool, while on our way to the jailhouse of the Marrow. Also on our way is a free Craftmetal that can be obtained with a little effort. This is where many players make the common mistake of trying to venture into Hunter's March, the entrance of which is above the jailhouse. We don't have much to gain by going here at this time, and the platforming is very challenging with our current setup. For those reasons, we'll just grab the straight pin in the jailhouse, we can break through the locked doors, rest at the bench, then move out and down deeper into the Marrow. We'll eventually reach the Deep Docks region and can unlock the Bellway station here. Chakra is also found close by, and we can purchase the map for this area if we want to. We'll then want to keep moving east until we see a bench sign that leads down to a chamber with an arena. After defeating the enemies there, we will unlock a free bench and access to the Forge Daughter. The Forge Daughter has 2 things for sale that we really want. Those are the Stingshard, a very useful tool that is well worth our only Craftmetal up to this point, and then there is the Crafting Kit, which increases the damage of all our offensive tools like the Stingshard. Getting these 2 things can be a huge help in overcoming difficult bosses. Going back to the Bellway station for Deep Docks, we'll then move up and to the east to get the Swift Step ability. This allows us to sprint and dodge as well as air dash. Getting this will greatly improve our mobility and allow us to evade enemy attacks more reliably. It's also one of the necessary traversals, allowing us to reach new areas. For example, there's a Flea that we can use our sprint and air dash to reach right next to where we picked up the ability. More importantly, we can now reach a lever to the east of the Forge Daughter, which unlocks the arena for facing off with Lace. Once she's been defeated, we are completely free to move east into far fields. There's another farm spot to the west of the Farfields Bellway, as the Scar enemies drop a decent amount of rosaries, but if we can hold out just a little longer, we should be able to reach a much better farming spot in Greymoor. For that, we'll need to move down and east of the Farfields Bellway to reach the Seamstress Hut. She'll give us a quest to collect spines from the Hokers that are only found east of her hut. Once we gather enough of those, we can return to her for the next traversal upgrade, the Drifter's Cloak. With that, we can get to Greymoor, but before going, we should unlock some nearby airstreams by smacking explosive cores, then ride up them with the Drifter's Cloak to reach a nearby Mask Shard. If we don't get it now, we can always get it later, but it would be nice not to have to return here just for that. We need 4 Mask Shards to get a single extra Mask of Health, and we will make sure to get those just as soon as we are able to. In any case, backtracking to the Farfields Bellway, we can then unlock a series of airstreams to take us up to the Pilgrim's Rest area. If you pay to get into the structure there, make sure to break the gear that closes the door so that you don't have to pay to open it again. Also, another mistake people often make is to use memory lockets on the Hunter Crest. Instead, we should prioritize using them on non-Hunter Crests first, the first of which we will be unlocking very soon. That's because using memory lockets on the Hunter Crest will do nothing to help us get upgrades later on, whereas using them on non-Hunter Crests will. If this is your first time playing the game, then what I'm saying probably does not make any sense. If you want to learn more and don't mind spoilers, you can go check out my complete guide and explanation for the Eva upgrades, which I will link near the bottom of this video's description. Either way, for now, save any memory lockets that you happen to pick up. We'll need to platform our way to the top exit of this area and then open up more airstreams to get all the way up to Greymoor. Chakra is a short distance east from where we emerge, and we'll sell the map for this area. Our ultimate goal is to head west until we reach the halfway home. Along with a free bench to rest at, this is likely where the best Act 1 Rosary Farm is found. We'll just go out east, hit the first pilgrim enemy once, then Silkspear the trio and clean up the large guy. We'll then run back to the bench and rest to reset the enemies, rinse and repeat. Every once in a while we'll need to just use our needle on this group to build up silk, but it's a pretty great farming spot to get all our rosaries at. While here, we can also speak with New in the top chamber of Halfway Home to get the Hunter's Journal. Moving west, we can stop at the Greymoor Bellway and activate it and break a wall to reveal a hidden passage where a memory locket can be found. Further west, we'll stop at the Chapel of the Reaper on our way to Bellheart. There, we will unlock the Reaper Crest, which is fantastic for platforming and also just a pretty good crest all around. Make sure to return to Halfway Home to equip your tools to this crest if you are going to use it, and you can also use any memory lockets that you might have on it. I would unlock the blue slot first, the yellow slot second, and the red slot last. Up next is what I personally found to be the greatest challenge for anyone following this guide. It's Moorwing, and it will be standing in our way of reaching Bellheart. There are 2 ways to get past it. The first is the straightforward way, and that is to defeat Moorwing. I ended up doing this, but even after beating the game, it took several tries on my return playthrough. My winning strategy was to get above it with the Reaper Crest and then just pogo off it as much as possible. That being said, we don't actually have to fight it now. If we rescue a total of 5 fleas, we can travel with the flea caravan to the spot where Moorwing normally appears, and it won't appear because of the fleas. If you grow frustrated with Moorwing and want to just rescue 5 fleas instead, here's where to find them. We already mentioned the one in Deep Docks near where Swift Step is unlocked. Then there is a secret chamber to the west of the Deep Docks Bellway and a flea at the end of a short platforming section there. A third flea can be easily reached by going west of Pilgrim's Rest and Farfields. Across the chamber and a short way down a new path to the west, we can find a trapped flea in an alcove to the east. Just be careful you don't get trapped yourself. There is a 4th flea up and to the east of the Marrow Bellway station at the end of a short platforming section. Finally, we'll need to go just a short distance into Hunter's March to get the 5th flea. After defeating the Scar Guard that is protecting the entrance of Hunter's March, which is tough but nowhere near as tough as Moorwing, we can platform up to the top of the tall vertical chamber that follows, finding the Flea at the end of it. With 5 Fleas rescued, we can return to Mushka in the Marrow and speak with him several times, then agree to travel with the caravan. This will bring us to where Moorwing is normally fought, but it will no longer appear to block our path. If you do choose this method of dealing with Moorwing, know that you can always fight it later. By Act 2, Moorwing will appear when traveling west from the Greymoor Bellway. Also, we can speak with Grishkin, another Flea, to get the Flea Brew tool as a reward for our efforts. However you choose to deal with Moorwing, we will then keep moving west into and through Bellheart. We should also unlock the Bellway station while we're here. We are now able to get 4 Mask Shards and get our 6th Mask of Health. We already covered the one that is near the Seamstress Hut in Far Fields. We can purchase one from Pebb in Bone Bottom, and then there is the 3rd one that can be obtained to the west of the Marrow Bellway station, across the gap above the Bone Bottom village and beyond the long horizontal chamber guarded by the Craggler mini-boss. It's near the door that requires a simple key to open, down in the small pit and through a breakable wall. There's also one in Shellwood at the end of an optional platforming section just before reaching the Sister Splinter boss. If more details are needed, I have a comprehensive guide for all Mask Shards in Acts 1 and 2, and I will leave a link to that near the bottom of this video's description. In any case, there are 2 other Mask Shards that can be obtained in Act 1, but we won't be able to get our next full Mask of Health until Act 2, so we will return to the topic of increasing our max health then. Sister Splinter can be an imposing boss at first, but once we learn how to deal with the adds she summons, which I should mention that both Silkspear and the Stingshard tool work wonders on them, the sister is not so bad. Once she is defeated, the way ahead will be cleared and we can go get the next traversal ability, Cling Grip, also known as the Wall Jump. This opens up a whole host of new areas that we can explore in Act 1. While we are here though, we may want to go complete the Pollip Right quest to get the Pollip Pouch tool. It takes about 5 minutes to get, and I'll leave a link to a full guide for the quest near the bottom of this video's description. Something we will want to avoid doing is defeating the WARDENFLY in the top eastmost chamber of Deep Docks. If we allow it, it will trap us in its cage and take us to the slab. This can be a fun diversion, but it's totally unnecessary for us to get stronger, and we can always come back to do it later. What we do want to do next is head up to the Bell Shrine at the top west edge of Shellwood. We can also unlock the Shellwood Bellway station while doing this. From there, we'll move further west and go up to the Blasted Steps Bellway station, unlocking that. As a bonus, we can grab a memory locket along the way. There is an extremely good yellow tool that we can get near the Blasted Steps Bellway. Out to the west, down a level, and west again through a small horizontal chamber, we will find Lumble the Lucky. We can play dice with Lumble and we will either win or lose 4 rosaries per roll. It's normally a 50-50 chance for the outcome. However, if we hold down the input to roll for around 5 or 6 seconds, they will flash for just a moment. When thrown at that precise moment, the result will always be a win for us. After we win a total of 40 rosaries off him, Lumble will give us the Magnetite dice tool. This tool has a chance to block any instance of damage we might receive, and the chance goes up the more times we are hit. It's not a huge chance, but it happens often enough to make the difference in winning or losing some fights, and it only takes a yellow tool slot. Yellow tools generally serve utility or non-combat functions, so the fact that this one can actually help us win fights is huge and makes it something that we will want to have equipped from now until we beat the game. While in Blasted Steps, we can also make our way down to the Pinstress to unlock the Needle Strike weapon art, also known as the Charged Attack. This is all assuming that we are able to defeat the Great Cogfly's boss that guards the way. We can, however, come back to get this at any time we want. Something else we can do now that we have Cling Grip is go get the Crest of the Wanderer without having to spend a simple key. All we need to do is drift down into the west through the gap above the Bone Bottom village. We should land on top of the large bone temple structure and can then cling and jump our way up the wall to the west to get into the area with the Chapel of the Wanderer. We can unlock a shortcut back to the Bone Bottom village just east of the chapel, then go get that second crest. We'll soon be getting enough memory lockets to fully upgrade both the Wanderer and Reaper crests, but just upgrade whichever one you like to use more first. Speaking of memory lockets, we already mentioned the one that can be purchased at Pilgrim's Rest. Another can be found through a secret passage in the Greymoor Bellway, just beyond a breakable wall. Then there is the third that we got while moving through Blasted Steps. For another two, we can first take the Volatile Flint Beetle's quest from the Bone Bottom mission board and go collect the 3 gems. Along the way, Cling Grip will allow us to access the upper part of a small chamber in the Marrow. It's near the second Flint Beetle, and we can get yet another memory locket there. I recommend getting at least 400 rosaries, possibly more, before this next part, as we will have some tools to purchase. The Reaper or Wanderer crest, as well as our current traversal abilities, will make platforming through Hunter's March much easier at this point. If you decide to rest at the bench near the end of it, just be sure to hit the lever in the hidden chamber to the west of the bench to deactivate the trap and make the bench safe. In the bottom east chamber, just before the Chapel of the Beast, we can grab memory locket number 6. I highly recommend saving the actual chapel for later, as completing it requires defeating the Savage Beastfly, which is extremely difficult even now. The Beast Crest also won't really help us get any Eva upgrades until late Act 2 after we've gotten the 2 crests that can be obtained in Act 2. Before leaving here, we'll want to visit the Friendly Scar Merchant. He's above the chamber with a bench behind yet another hidden passage. He sells the Fractured Mask and Curve Claw, both of which are useful tools to have and can be had for just 400 rosaries. With all the memory lockets we just covered, we can fully upgrade both the Wanderer and Reaper crest. However, we still need to get the Needle in to reach Eva for the upgrades that she offers. To get that, we'll need to defeat Widow in a chamber above Bellheart that is reached by going northeast of the Sister Splinter boss and through a couple of breakable walls within the Bellways. If you ever need more detailed walkthroughs on how to get any of the traversals, which includes the Needle in, you can follow my guides for all Act 1 and 2 traversals, which I will link near the bottom of this video's description. After getting the Needle in, the curse over Bellheart will be lifted and we can speak with various NPCs there. One thing we should be sure to do is speak with Pin Master Pliny. He'll thank us for saving him by upgrading our needle a single time for free, increasing its damage. We should also get and complete both the My Missing Courier and Crawbug clearing quests from the mission board in Bellheart. Completing the My Missing Courier quest will allow us to purchase new items from the Bellheart merchant, including a memory locket and the very strong multi-binder tool. Completing the Crawbug clearing quest will get us our second crafting kit, which will further boost the damage of our tools. We will then have to wait until Act 2 to get the remaining 2 crafting kits. Finally, we want to go to Weave Nest Atla along the east wall of Moss Grotto. Playing our needle in at the door outside will open it, granting us access. In the bottom east section of the nest is the NPC Eva, and I have a whole video explaining her upgrade system. What matters is that since we fully unlocked all tool slots for both the Wanderer and Reaper crests, we should be able to both evolve our Hunter crest for the first time, and also get our first Vesticrest upgrade, which gives us an extra yellow tool slot to be used in addition to all the tool slots we have for our equipped crest. Getting the Beast Crest and unlocking all slots for that will not allow us to get any more Eva upgrades, so there is no compelling reason to go fight the Beastfly at this point. While we are here, we may as well climb up the east wall in the central chamber, then up the elevator shaft, to reach a secret chamber where a platforming section involving lava leads to another mask shard. There are a couple more items we could go grab while still in Act 1, such as spool fragments or mask shards, but none would substantially increase our power. For example, we can't get enough mask shards to get another Mask of Health in Act 1. So it's time to go to Act 2. There are two ways of accomplishing that. The first is to activate all 5 bell shrines in Lower Farloom, then go fight the last judge in Upper East Blasted Steps. Personally, I prefer the other option, which is to go through the Mist and fight the Phantom boss. Easiest path to reach the Mist's area is through Sinner's Road and potentially Bilewater. I have a whole guide on this alternative path to Act 2 that I will link near the bottom of this video's description. One thing I don't cover in that is how to get the Tax, a red tool, which can be obtained along the way by completing the Roach Guts quest for Cruel and Benjen. They are located here in Sinner's Road. I mention that here because the Tax are very good against Phantom, the boss we will need to defeat to get into Act 2. That comprehensive guide is great, but here I'll just highlight the 2 possible paths that will bring you to the Mists region, which disappears once the Phantom boss is defeated in the Exhaust Organ. The first path is up to the west of the main Sinner's Road bench. It's a longer run back if you die in the Mist, but it is the overall easier path to get to the Mist. The second path goes through Bilewater. It's much tougher to get through, but once you do, you will unlock the Bilewater Bellway. It's then just a very short walk to reach the Mist area. In either case, we will need to defeat the Phantom at the end of the Exhaust Organ. She is, in my opinion, significantly easier to fight than the last judge, and also a lot more fun to fight. As a bonus, defeating her will give us immediate access to the Grand Bellway, and a secret room above it where another memory locket can be found. The Grand Bellway is important because it serves as the joining point for the Bellway, Act 1's fast travel system, and the Ventrica, Act 2's fast travel system. Exiting the Grand Bellway to the west will begin Act 2, where we can get much stronger than we currently are. To start, we will want to go up to the top east edge of the Coral Chambers region in the Citadel, where the first Shrine Ventrica is located. We can first grab the white key to the east of the shrine. Then, clearing the webs off the bell shrine there, ringing the bell, then fast traveling away and back, will result in the establishment of Songclave, the main Act 2 settlement. Also, doing this will cause enemies to start spawning outside of the Grand Bellway, which will serve as a decent Rosary Farm spot until we get a bit stronger. After unlocking the Act 2 traversals, we will also be getting a tool that increases rosaries dropped by enemies by around 60%, so don't go crazy farming rosaries just yet. If we want, we can go fight the Cogwork Dancers up into the west of Songclave. They are not too challenging, and defeating them will allow us access to the Cogwork Core region, where we can get a pretty quick and easy Mask Shard down to the west. Regardless of if we do that now, we'll want to complete the donation quest building up Songclave, then fast travel away and back again. This will cause the Wandering Merchant quest to appear on the mission board. With both that and the white key, we can go to the Grand Bellway and move west through the Coral Chambers towards the White Ward. Along the way, we can save the Wandering Merchant in a dead-end chamber, then drop down to the east from there to reach White Ward. Near the end of White Ward, just before entering the incinerator that then leads to the Underworks, we can go a short distance west to find the Injector Band tool, which increases healing speed. We can then drop down to the Underworks region to go get the Clawline Traversal ability, as well as a Craftmetal in the chamber just beneath where the Clawline ability is obtained. With that ability, we can then reach the Architect NPC near the main Underworks bench, and she sells many great tools, as well as our third crafting kit. This is a must-buy in my opinion. At this point, we need to get to the Slab Bellway station. The more thematic way to do this, which involves a jailbreak scenario, is to get abducted by that WARDENFLY I mentioned earlier, the one in Upper East Deep Docks. However, the faster and easier way to reach the Slab's Bellway is to just move up and west from the Grand Bellway through Coral Chambers. The most obvious path through the slab when approached from that direction leads straight to the Bellway without any of the jailbreak stuff required. That said, if you want to go the jailbreak route, you can follow my comprehensive guide for how to unlock the double jump ability linked down below. Also, if we do enter the slab through Coral Chambers, I think the WARDENFLY in Deep Docks disappears, meaning that we can no longer be abducted. However we do it, once we reach the Slab Bellway, we can move west of it and clawline across some rings to reach Mount Fay. We'll then need to platform our way all the way to the top of the mountain while fighting off Frostbite in order to get the Fey Down Cloak, which gives us double jump and cold immunity. Also, a quick tip that I have yet to test is that the Flint Slate tool, which can be obtained by using a simple key on the locked door near the Forge Daughter, will delay the frostbite damage when used. So if you want more time to get from one heat source to another, try getting and using that. If you are one of the many people who seem to despise this area, I recommend rescuing the Flea from the hidden chamber on your way up, so that you don't have to come back just for that. At this point, we can easily get our 7th Mask of Healing if we have not already. To start, we'll want to take a side path west of Mount Fay's peak. At the bottom of this sloping path is one of the first benches available while climbing up the mountain. Out to the west of it is a Mask Shard that can only be reached with double jump. There is also a tool, the Memory Crystal, which we will want to pick up to the east of the bench beyond a breakable wall and several icy boulders. Just float east from any point on the mountain's exterior to get back to the Slab Bellway. Some of the other easy mask shards to get at this point include the one in Cogwork Core through the bottom westmost chamber, then there is one that can be purchased from Jubilana after we complete the Wandering Merchant quest, and she will be at Songclave, though it is expensive. There is then that mask shard in Weavenest Atla that I mentioned earlier. If you didn't get it then, it should be much easier to reach now. Likewise, there is a mask shard in Deep Docks that only requires Cling Grip to access, but is much easier to get now. That should be more than enough options to get up to our 7th Mask of Healing. This is a big upgrade to get because it means we can now take 4 hits from a double damage source before dying instead of just 3. At this point, our next objective should be to unlock the Architect Crest, which requires getting a total of 25 unique tools. We could instead get the Witch Crest, but given a secret achievement involved with that crest, it's best saved until we get much further into Act 2. Accumulating 25 tools is no easy task, and I cover how to get 31 unique tools in my complete guide for unlocking the Architect Crest, linked below. Some of the best tools to get that are covered in that guide, and ones that I recommend getting as a priority, are the Cogflies, Thief's Mark, Ascendance Grip, Multi-Binder, Cogwork Wheel, and Plasmium Vial. Then there are plenty of tools that are relatively easy to get to reach that goal of 25 tools total, including the Long Pin, Warding Bell, Weighted Belt, Weave Light, Snare Setter, Flea Brew, and Barbed Bracelet. Also, this won't help us get to 25 tools, but with the Mossberry from the Memoriam region, which we can reach with Double Jump, we should be able to upgrade our Druid's Eye tool to the Druid's Eyes by giving all 7 Mossberries in the game to the Moss Druid. The Druid's Eyes tool is very good and basically gives us 1 spool of silk per instance of damage received. With both the Cogfly and the Thief's Mark tools, we can start farming the Grand Reeds near Songclave. We should defeat 1 or 2 of them at a time to get up to 110 Rosaries per rest cycle. We should only defeat 2 of them at a time if doing so does not result in the destruction of any Cogflies. If they are getting destroyed between resting, we should only defeat 1 Grand Reed before resting, so that they last indefinitely and we don't have to worry about running out of shell shards. Once we are able to afford the last crafting kit from Grindle and Blasted Steps, we should be able to defeat 2 Grand Reeds at a time without any issues. This will then allow us to farm Rosaries at a very fast pace and buy all the stuff. Once we have at least 25 tools in our inventory, we can then purchase the Architect's Key from the Architect, then go unlock the chamber up to the west of her, where we can bind the Crest of the Architect. This is probably my favorite crest as it allows us to perform a special bind, which will replenish all our tools while away from the bench. It also has a very strong charged attack. We'll need to get at least 3, though preferably 4 more memory lockets. The easiest ones for us to get are at the Bellheart Merchant, the one I mentioned earlier in the Grand Bellway, and then there is one that we can double jump to in Greymoor's Halfway Home. There's also one in Whispering Vaults that we will cover in just a moment. After unlocking at least 3 of the tool slots in the Architect Crest, assuming we also have the fully unlocked or upgraded Wanderer and Reaper crests, we can return to Eva for our next major upgrade, which is a blue tool slot in the Vesticrest. Blue tools are usually very beneficial in combat, so this is big. The next thing we should do is defeat the Cogwork Dancers if we have not already, then go through Cogwork Core to reach Whispering Vaults. There are a few things we can grab here with Double Jump, including a Mask Shard, Memory Locket, and most importantly, a Pale Oil. Links to relevant guides can be found in the description below. This Pale Oil will allow us to get our needle upgraded a second time by Pinmaster Pliny. For the 3rd needle upgrade, we will need another Pale Oil, which we can get by completing the Great Taste of Farloom quest. Again, check the links for relevant guides if needed. With all that done, we will be very strong and fully capable of exploring almost any region in Acts 1 and 2. At that point, I recommend following my guides to get the remaining Mask Shards in Act 2, which will bring us to 9 Masks of Hell. This is also the point where we can and should go get all spool fragments, doubling our starting silk capacity and allowing us to heal twice if we have full silk. We can then go get the Beast Crest, and it will be much easier to take on the Savage Beastfly at our current power level. Then follow my Witch Crest guide to get that unlocked, and also to make sure you are able to get the secret achievement associated with the Witch questline, assuming you want it. There are enough memory lockets remaining in Act 2 to then fully upgrade all crests that can be unlocked, as well as the Hunter Crest if desired. With all non-Hunter crests fully upgraded, we can then get the last 2 Eva upgrades. This includes a second evolution of the Hunter Crest, which is fine, but more importantly, the last Eva upgrade is Sylphsong, an ability that restores our silk when we rest at any bench. It's as good as it sounds and makes prepping for difficult fights so much easier. Covering all of that with comprehensive walkthroughs in this video would make it about 4 hours long, so hopefully links to pre-existing guides covering those topics will suffice. After doing all of that, we should be extremely powerful and more than ready to complete any remaining tasks in Act 2 before moving on to Act 3. 2 big tasks include defeating the last judge and finding most or all of the missing fleas and completing that questline. Another one is rounding up all Act 1 and 2 tools and silk skills. Finally, we may want to get the remaining tool pouch upgrades that we have not already gotten to expand the number of tools that we are able to hold. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me in the comments where I will do my best to help. If you want to see more great content, you can head over to my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day. If you're here today, have a great Sunday and a great week. And as always, thanks for watching.